I never thought I'd be sitting here, spilling my guts on a public forum, but honestly, I need to get this off my chest. It's been a whirlwind of pain, betrayal, and now revenge. I want to start at the beginning because maybe if I tell this story straight from the start, I can make sense of what's happened. Or at least I can understand how I got here. My wife, Lisa, and I had been together for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. I thought she was the one. She's a pretty girl, sharp, ambitious, always the one with a plan. We were building a life, a nice little house, planning for a future. I've been working hard to get us there, climbing the ladder in my job, dreaming about the day I'd finally feel settled. Then in the middle of it all, I got diagnosed with cancer. Worse, it was aggressive. I spent months in the hospital, hooked up to machines, feeling everything slipping away. During those dark weeks, Lisa stayed by my side, or so I thought. She visited often enough, held my hand, kept my spirits up. I clung to her, grateful she was there. I told myself she was the rock I needed. But now I realize I was fooling myself. One day I came home from chemo feeling wiped out. I was dragging my feet, exhausted, and needed to lie down. I didn't think much about it then, I was just tired. When I stepped into the apartment, something felt off. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that screams. That's when I saw it. A pair of women's shoes by the door, beautiful, expensive heels I'd never seen before. My stomach clenched. I looked around, and that's when I spotted her. Lisa. She was sitting on the couch with David, my best friend, both of them laughing like they'd been caught in some private joke. The air was thick with the scent of perfume that wasn't hers, faint but unmistakable. I took a step closer, heart pounding. They didn't see me at first. I could hear their voices, light and flirtatious, and that's when I saw her hand resting on his knee. That small, intimate gesture. My knees buckled slightly. I didn't want to believe it. I thought I was imagining it. I kept my eyes locked on her, watching her lean. In a little more, her lips curling in that careless, stupid smile. I didn't need to see more because I knew that look. That look screamed betrayal. I felt my stomach drop and my palms turn slick with sweat. How could she? After everything I'd been through, she decided to cheat on me with my best friend of all people. I clenched my fists, trying to hold myself together, but everything inside was boiling. I turned around and left the apartment without a word. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to punch anything. I just wanted to get away, to breathe, to process the fact that my world had shattered in an instant. How long had this been going on? Were they sneaking around while I was in the hospital? I couldn't even bring myself to cry right then. I was numb, just numb. That night I sat alone in my darkened room, replaying everything I had seen, everything I had instinctively known but refused to admit. The evidence was right there, plain as day. The shoes, the way they looked at each other, the way she touched him. It was all too much. I felt like I'd been sucker punched, left with a hollow ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. And still, I kept asking myself, how could she do this now, when I was at my lowest point fighting cancer? I knew then that my fight wasn't just against the disease. It was against this betrayal too. I needed a plan. I didn't want to walk away like some beaten dog. I wanted her to feel what I felt, to understand that messing around with my best friend was the last mistake she'd ever make. That's when the idea started to take shape, something cold and precise. If she thought she could cheat, she'd better prepare for the consequences, because this wasn't just about breaking up. It was about making her regret every damn moment she thought she could get away with it. But first, I had to see just how deep this went. I needed proof. I started digging through her phone, her emails, anything that could give me an edge. I wasn't just going to confront her blindly, I wanted to be ready. And if I was going to do this, I'd do it in a way that hit her hardest. There's more to this story, and trust me, it's far from over. But for now, I wanted to get this first part out, just to lay down the truth before I move on to what comes next. I spent the next few days like a ghost in my own life. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that stupid grin, the way her hand had lingered so casually on his knee. I felt like I was walking around with a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, like I'd been hit by a truck. I knew I needed to stay calm, to plan, but everything inside was raw and jittery. I started digging into her phone. That was the only way I knew I'd find the proof I needed. Her messages, her photos, anything that could confirm what I'd seen. I knew she'd be careful, but I was determined. I crept into her files late at night when she was supposedly asleep. My hands trembled as I unlocked her passcode, something I'd guessed after months of observation, her birthday. Easy but enough for me to get access. What I found chilled me more than I expected. There were texts, more than I'd hoped. 4 flirty messages, secret plans. A string of emojis that looked innocent but felt anything but winks, hearts, and can't wait to see you tonight. I saw photos, too. Pictures of her smiling with him, her hand wrapped around his arm, her face glowing like she'd found some new secret happiness. Then there was the kicker, a confirmation text about her pregnancy, a doctor's appointment scheduled for next week. I stared at the screen with a kind of numb disbelief. My stomach twisted, my throat clogged. The universe had just punched me in the gut again. She'd gotten pregnant during the week I was in the hospital fighting for my life. That's when I realized the depths of her betrayal. She'd been lying, sneaking around, and now she was planning to bring a child into this mess. I closed her phone with trembling hands, breath ragged. My mind spun with rage and heartbreak. I knew I couldn't confront her right then. I needed to think, to plan my next move. But one thing was clear. She had crossed a line I couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was about destruction, her destruction for what she'd done to me. The next thing I did was go to my best friend's house. I wanted answers. I'd known David since college, trusted him more than anyone, but that trust was shattered now. I found him sitting awkwardly on his couch, a beer in hand. He looked guilty, avoiding my eyes. "David," I said, voice tight, "you knew, didn't you, about her, about everything?" He hesitated, then finally looked up. "Look, man, I didn't mean for it to get this far. It just happened. I didn't plan for any of this." "Didn't plan?" I snapped. "She's pregnant, David. She's pregnant with your kid, and you're telling me it just happened. How long has this been going on?" He looked down, ashamed. "A few months, since before your diagnosis. I didn't want to tell you, man. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could handle it." That lie hit me like a punch. Handling it, that's what he thought he was doing. I clenched my fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. "You lied to me all this time." "I was trying to protect you," he muttered. "I did. Want to lose you as a friend, and I knew if you found out I was sleeping with Lisa, I thought maybe I could fix it." "Fix it? That's not fixing anything. That's destroying everything." I could feel the heat rising in my face. My heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. I looked at him, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak I'd never experienced before. "Fix it? You're both a bunch of selfish idiots," I growled. "You think you can just play with my life like it's some game? Well, I've got news for you. I'm done trusting either of you. And Lisa, she's about to learn that karma always catches up." I left his house that night with a plan forming in my mind. I knew what I had to do. I didn't want to ruin her entirely, but I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices. I wanted her to understand that crossing me, betraying me, would come with consequences she'd never forget. That's when I started to lay out my revenge. I'd gather every piece of evidence I could find, texts, emails, even the doctor's appointment confirmation. I'd make sure she knew I knew everything. I'd corner her with the truth, expose her to everyone she cared about, and make her regret ever thinking she could get away with this. I needed to be patient, calculated. I had my own scars, both physical and emotional, and I knew I couldn't let her see me break, but I promised myself I wouldn't let her walk away unscathed. Not this time. Now my mind is racing with every detail, every possible move. I know this isn't over. Not yet. The storm is just beginning. The more I thought about it, the clearer my plan became. I couldn't just confront her with a bunch of angry words and expect her to crumble. That wouldn't be enough. I needed her to see the full picture, see her life spiraling as a direct result of her choices. I wanted her to feel the betrayal, the loss, the pain. I needed her to understand that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. First, I secured all the evidence I'd gathered, screenshots of the texts, the doctor's appointment confirmation, the photos I'd seen. I kept them on a USB drive hidden in a place she'd never suspect, just in case. I knew she'd try to destroy or hide what I had, so I had to be ready. I also started planning what I'd say when I finally confronted her. I wanted to strike hard, but I also wanted to keep my composure, at least for as long as I could. One evening I sat across from her, watching her move around the apartment, pretending everything was normal. She looked happy, oblivious, like she'd already convinced herself she was getting away with it all. I clenched my fists every time she smiled at her phone at David's text still on the screen. I had to remind myself, this isn't about revenge for the sake of revenge, it's about justice, about her finally seeing what she's done. When she finished her dinner, I finally spoke. My voice was calm but cold. "Lisa, I need to talk to you, sit down." She looked up a little surprised. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath. "I know everything about you and David, about the pregnancy." Her face froze. For a second I thought she'd deny it, but then she blinked, her facade cracking. "You've been spying on me." "Not spying," I said, voice steady. "Just gathering what I needed, because I want you to know I'm not some fool. I know the truth, and I know how long you've been lying to me." Her eyes darted away and she looked guilty but also defiant. "It doesn't matter anymore, it's over anyway." I shook my head. "No, it's just beginning, because I've got proof. Everything, texts, appointments, the photos, and I'm not going to let you walk away from this without consequences." Her jaw tightened. "What do you want from me?" I leaned in, feeling my heartbeat thump in my ears. "I want you to understand something. You can't keep running from what you did. You thought you could cheat and hide, but I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you really are. You played with my trust, my love, and my future, and I won't just forget this." She looked like she wanted to say something, but no words came. Instead, she just stared at me, her face a mask of shock and anger. "I've already started showing your friends and family the truth," I continued. "And once I'm done, you'll realize that the life you thought you had is about to change forever." She stood up sharply. "You're crazy. This is just revenge. You're overreacting." "No," I said, voice rising slightly. "This is justice, because I won't let you ruin me then walk away like nothing happened. You'll see your choices have consequences, Lisa, big ones." I handed her the USB drive calmly but firmly. "Take this. It's everything you want to keep hiding, fine, but I promise the truth will come out in the end. And when it does, I'll be the one standing tall, not you." She snatched the drive from my hand, eyes blazing. "You think this will break me? You're wrong. I don't care what you show anyone. I'm done with this life anyway." I felt my jaw tighten. "We're not done, not yet." Walking out of that apartment, I knew I was on the edge of something big. I'd planted the first seed of my revenge, and the fallout was inevitable. I could already feel her world starting to crumble, and honestly, I'd never felt more alive. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going to let her walk away without feeling the weight of her choices, and I was just getting started. Next, I planned to reveal the full scope of my revenge, how I set the wheels in motion, and what I planned to do once she realized her life was about to change forever. After I handed her that USB drive, I felt a strange mix of relief and fury. That was the beginning. Now she knew I had everything. She could try to deny it, hide it, destroy it, whatever. But the damage was done. I started working on the next phase of my plan, and it was all about control. I wanted her to realize she wasn't just caught. I wanted her to feel helpless, like she'd lost grip on her own life. Over the next few days, I meticulously prepared everything. I contacted a mutual friend we both trusted, a woman who knew Lisa's secrets but never judged her openly. I told her I wanted her to see the truth, not to blackmail or hurt her, but so she'd understand what Lisa had been hiding. The plan was to tell her everything, show her the evidence, and let her draw her own conclusions. Meanwhile, I kept my distance from Lisa. I didn't want her to suspect I was orchestrating anything. I'd learned to keep my emotions in check, to appear calm on the surface, even as my mind raced. I started making calls, drafting messages, planning the moment I'd finally confront Lisa directly in front of everyone. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and ultimately broken. One evening, I arranged to meet with my friend Sarah. She was a confidant, someone who'd been around for years, knew the ins and outs of our circle, and understood the kind of chaos Lisa's betrayal had unleashed in me. I handed her the USB, along with printed screenshots and the email trail I'd compiled from her correspondence with David. I made sure she understood exactly what I wanted her to do: share it with the right people, at the right moment. Nothing flashy, no public spectacle, just enough to make Lisa realize her life was unraveling. The moment I saw her face when she looked at the evidence, I knew I had made the right choice. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. She looked stunned, like she'd been caught in a trap she couldn't escape. And that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted her to see that all her lies and deception had consequences, that she was finally exposed. That's when I started to prepare myself for the ultimate confrontation. I knew she'd try to spin it, deny everything, or maybe even beg. But I wasn't interested in her apologies or excuses anymore. I wanted her to face what she'd done and accept the punishment she deserved. I'd been patient, strategic, but now it was time for the final act. One night I called her into the living room. She looked nervous, like she'd already sensed what I was up to. I sat her down and looked her right in the eyes. "Lisa, you're going to hear some things you won't like. I've shown everyone what you've been hiding, the truth about David, the pregnancy, everything." She looked like she might cry, but she tried to keep her cool. "You're ruining everything. This isn't fair." "No," I said. "You ruined everything yourself. You lied, cheated, and betrayed the person who loved you most. I've given you enough chances to come clean. Now I'm just showing you how it ends." I pulled out my phone and pressed play on a video I'd secretly recorded a few days earlier. It was Lisa, late at night, walking in our apartment with David. They'd been talking for a while, and I'd hid a small camera in the corner. The footage was clear, her whispering, laughing, touching him casually. Her face flushed with excitement. I let it run, letting her see herself caught in the act. Her eyes widened as she watched herself. Her breathing quickened. She looked as if she was about to say something, but no words came. I set my phone down and leaned forward. "That's not all. I've shared this with our friends and family. Everyone will see the real Lisa, the one who lied and cheated while I was fighting for my life." She looked like she might bolt, but she sat frozen. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, Lisa, you'll regret what you did to me, to us. I'm done pretending I'm okay with this. It's over." I handed her a set of keys and a folder. "That's your stuff. The apartment, in your name, but I want you to leave. You're not welcome here anymore. Take your things and go." She hesitated, then slowly took the folder, clutching it like a lifeline. "You're really doing this?" "Yeah," I said, "and I'll be moving on, because I deserve better than someone who would betray me like this." She looked at me with a mixture of anger and disbelief, then finally got up and left. I heard the door close behind her, a final, decisive sound that told me I was finally free from her lies. As I stood there, I felt a strange sense of calm. I'd done what I had to do. I'd exposed her, taken back control, and I was ready to rebuild my life. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming myself. Ending this chapter, I made the decision to let go. It's hard, but sometimes the strongest act of self-respect is walking away from someone who's done you wrong, no matter how much it hurts in the moment. And that, I realized, was the real victory. The days that followed were a blur of emptiness and clarity. After kicking her out, I felt a strange mixture of relief and a gnawing ache. I had done what I needed to do, but the silence in the apartment was deafening. Every corner, every piece of furniture seemed to echo her absence. I spent hours packing her things, sorting through memories I'd once cherished, now tainted. The weight of betrayal was heavy, but at least I could breathe again. I kept my emotions in check as best I could. No tears, no rage, just a calculated focus on moving forward. I knew I had to stay strong, not just for myself, but for the future I still wanted to build. I started making plans, therapy, a new place to live, a fresh start. But beneath that calm exterior, I was determined. I'd let her go, yes, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. One evening, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the city lights flicker below. The wind was cool on my skin, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of peace. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah, the friend I'd given the evidence to. She told me that the photos and videos had gone viral. She shared everything with a small circle of trusted friends and family, and it was spreading fast. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it settle inside me. Now everyone knew. Lisa's secret was out, her reputation in tatters. The thought sent a small shiver down my spine. I wasn't into revenge for revenge's sake, but seeing her fall was oddly satisfying. She played her hand, and now she was paying the price. The phone buzzed again. This time a call from my brother. I answered, voice steady. "Hey, I just wanted to check on you. I heard what happened." "I'm okay," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "It's over. I've made sure she can't hide anymore." "That's good," he said quietly. "You did what you had to do. She hurt you, man, bad, but you're stronger than her." Those words hit hard. I realized I'd been so consumed with the betrayal that I hadn't fully processed how much it had broken me. But I also saw that I was still standing, still breathing, still ready to rebuild. Later that night, I sat alone with a drink, reflecting on everything. No more secrets, no more lies, just a future I was slowly taking back. I knew I'd need to heal to trust again, but for now I was content knowing I'd fought for myself, no matter how ugly it got. The biggest lesson: sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands, because if you don't, others will decide your fate. And I wasn't about to let her or anyone else do that to me again. This chapter is closing, but I know better days are ahead. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, taking control, even if it's just a little bit, can make all the difference. And trust me, I'll never let someone else's betrayal define me. Not anymore. Next, I'll wrap this story up with how I finally moved on, what I learned from everything, and some advice for anyone facing a betrayal like this. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. It wasn't easy. Trusting again felt like trying to learn a new language after years of fluency. The pain still lingered, especially the betrayal of someone I loved and trusted. But with each day, I grew stronger. I started therapy, not just to deal with the heartbreak, but to understand how to forgive myself for trusting so blindly. That wasn't weakness, it was part of healing. I moved into a new place, a small but peaceful apartment where I could finally breathe without reminders of her. I cut off contact entirely. No calls, no texts, no social media feeds filled with her updates. If I'd learned anything, it was that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and refusing to let her poison my future. Looking back, I realized that the pain was a wake-up call. It hit me hard, but it also forced me to confront what I truly wanted: respect, honesty, and peace. I learned that sometimes people betray you because they're too afraid to face their own flaws. But the truth is, you can't control anyone else's actions. The only thing you can control is how you respond. My biggest lesson: don't ignore the red flags. The subtle hints, the small inconsistencies, the feelings nagging at the back of your mind that something's wrong. I ignored the signs for too long, hoping things would get better, convincing myself that love could fix everything. But love isn't enough when trust is broken. You have to listen to that voice inside telling you to pay attention. And when betrayal happens, don't be afraid to take control. It's tempting to stay silent, to pretend it didn't happen, but that only prolongs the pain. Facing it head-on, exposing the truth, and then walking away, those are the most powerful acts of self-respect. It's not about revenge for revenge's sake, it's about reclaiming your dignity. About saying, "You didn't break me. I am still standing." To anyone going through something similar, I'd tell you this: be patient with yourself. The wounds heal, but they do take time. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care. And never forget, you deserve honesty and respect. If someone betrays that, don't hesitate to cut ties. Your happiness and peace are worth more than their lies. As for me, I'm finally ready to trust again, but smarter this time. I know now that real strength isn't hiding your vulnerability, it's having the courage to confront it and move forward. I've learned that sometimes the greatest act of love you can give yourself is to let go of what's hurting you and step into the life you deserve. So, I handed over the keys to my old life and turned the page. The past will always be part of me, but it doesn't define me. What does is how I choose to live from here. I'm healing, rebuilding, and most importantly, learning to trust myself again. And that's the real victory.